What are these? That, who. How do we call this? ¿Cómo se llama esto en inglés?
Linking words.
Not exactly, no. Any other ideas? No? Okay, we are going to learn about these words. I want you to pay attention and write your doubts or your questions so we can solve them at the end, okay? Don't forget to take notes, okay? So today we are going to learn about these two words, who and that. These are relative pronouns, okay? Relative pronouns. We use these in relative clauses, okay? And today we are going to learn what is a clause, okay? So it says, what is a clause? It's a group of words containing a subject and a verb which form a sentence or part of a sentence. Okay, so a clause is similar to a sentence, but in one sentence we can have more than one clause. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. It says, I can cook very well, but I make quite good pancakes. As you can see, this is one sentence. Okay? How many clauses do you think we have here in this sentence? How many clauses do you think we have here in this sentence? What do you think? Remember that a clause is a group of words containing a subject and a verb.
Two.
Two,
Two
okay?
clauses.
Which ones?
I can cook and I make.
Okay, very good. Yes, here we have the first clause is I can cook very well. And the second clause, I make quite good pancakes. Okay, and this is a conjunction. Okay, these two clauses are in one sentence and they are joined by a conjunction. Okay, ellas están unidas por una conjunción. Okay, good. So what is the subject in the first clause? What is the subject in the first clause? I is the subject. And the verb?
Cook.
Cook.
Okay. Here in the second sentence, the subject is also I, right? In both clauses, the subject is I. In the first sentence, the verb is cook, and in the second sentence, the verb is make. As you can see, in one sentence, we can have more than one clause, okay? But in one clause we don't have sentences, okay? Entonces, las clauses pueden formar oraciones, okay? Let's see here. Now we are going to check the relative clauses, okay? We are going to make a review about the relative clauses, okay? Do you remember what are the relative clauses? Any idea of what is this? Relative clauses? Creo que aprendieron esto en el nivel 3, si no me equivoco. Any idea? No. Okay, these are relative pronouns. Who, which, that, relative pronouns. But let's see here. Relative clauses is a clause that starts with a relative pronoun, it says. Okay, entonces una relative clause es una de estas, una clause que empieza con un relative pronoun. Okay, ¿qué es un relative pronoun? What relative pronouns do you remember? Do you remember any relative pronoun?
Which.
Who.
Which, who,
That.
that, very good. Okay, where. Okay, these are relative pronouns, right? So here we have some examples: who, which, that, whose, where, when, who, why. Okay? These are some relative pronouns. For example, the woman who called you is my dentist. As you can see, who called you is my dentist. This is the relative clause because this is the clause that starts with a relative pronoun. Who, okay? So now you know what is a clause and what is a relative clause, okay? Remember, a clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. A relative clause is a clause that starts with a relative pronoun. And these are some of the relative pronouns that we have, okay? Let's continue with the other part. Now we are going to talk about two relative pronouns that we are going to be using in this lesson, okay? So we are going to talk about who, and also we are going to talk about that. Do you remember when do we use who? When we are referring to what?
For people.
Yes, we use who when we talk about people, when we refer to people, right? Could be one person or could be people in plural, right? Okay, for example, the woman who lives next door is a doctor. Something that you have to be very careful with is the verb. Okay, if you are talking about only one person, the verbs after the relative pronoun needs to be for the third person. But if you are talking here about more than one person, the verbs is the normal verb. For example, the man who live next door are doctors. Okay, as you can see, man is a word in plural, right? It's a plural word. That's why the verb after the relative pronoun is for a plural noun, live. Okay, and here we have the verb in plural too. Okay, so be careful with the verb after the relative pronoun. If we are talking about only one person, we need the verb for the third person, lives, okay? But if we are talking about more than one person, we are talking about people, we can use the normal verb, live, okay? Let's go to that. When do we use that? Do you remember?
With things.
With things, yes. We use that for things. Anything else? Any other situation in which we can use that?
For person too.
Yes, we can use that for people. For example, people who study languages are smart. Okay, we can use that for people, sorry, who for people, as we said in plural. Or we can use that for things. John bought a TV that is bigger than mine. Okay, you can see we are referring to the TV. But we can use also that for people. The woman that lives next door is a doctor. Okay, as you can see, singular, plural for people. Who? We can use that for objects, TV, or we can use this for people too. Okay, could be singular or plural. Okay, so any questions until here? Until the relative pronouns? ¿Alguna pregunta? Creo que ya sabían esto, ¿cierto? Okay.
Sure, I remember other word.
Yes. Which, yes, we use which also for objects and for people, but in this lesson we are not going to use which. We are going to use who, and that, okay? So it says relative clauses. We can use relative clauses to join two English sentences or to give more information about something. ¿Ok? Entonces podemos utilizar para unir dos oraciones o dar más información acerca de algo. Vamos a ver algunos ejemplos acá. For example, here I have two sentences. I bought a new car. It is very fast. So, how do you think I can join these two sentences in only one sentence using a relative pronoun, a relative clause? What do you think? ¿Qué podría yo decir acá? ¿Cómo podría unir estas dos oraciones utilizando un relative pronoun?
For example, I bought a new car that is very fast.
Yes, very good. I bought a new car that is very fast. As you can see, we can use a relative pronoun here. Here we have two sentences. Here we have the other sentence. She has a son. He is a doctor. Okay, as you can see, we are giving more information about this son, the son that she has. Okay, so how can we join these two sentences?
She has a son who is a doctor.
She has a son who is a doctor, right? As you can see, we are using that to join the two sentences, and we are using who to join the two sentences. And we are giving more information about this. We are giving more information about the car, and we are giving more information about the son. Okay? So let's see some other things about these relative clauses. We have two kinds of relative pronouns. Okay? Relative pronouns can be the subject of the clause, or the relative pronouns can be the objects of the clause. Do you remember what is subject? What is a subject? For example, what is the subject of the sentence? ¿Cómo podríamos definir esto? What is the subject of the sentence? Any ideas? How can you define this? ¿Cómo podríamos definir el sujeto de una oración? What is this? ¿No? ¿Qué es un sujeto?
The person who do the action.
Yes, it's the person who does the action. It's the person who performs the action in the sentence or in the clause. Okay, so some of these relative pronouns act as the subject of the sentence. Okay, and what is the object of a sentence or of a clause? What is the object? Do you remember? How can we define object?
The object or the person who receives the action.
Very good. Is the object or the person who receives the action in the sentence or in the clause. Very good. Sometimes the relative pronouns are the object of the clause. Let's see some examples, okay? So we know that the subject is the one who performs the action, and the object is the one who receives the action, okay? Let's see here. When we have the relative pronoun as the subject of the clause, the relative pronoun is required. What does it mean? What does required mean? It means that it's necessary, it's essential. So we cannot erase this relative pronoun. But when we have the relative pronoun as the object of the clause, the relative pronoun is optional. It means that we can omit the relative pronoun. We can erase the relative pronoun, okay? I'm going to give you some examples here. For example, people who hate chocolate are uncommon, okay? As you can see, in this sentence, who, the relative pronoun, is the subject of the clause. Why? Because these people is the people who is doing the action, who is performing the action. Okay, esta persona, estas personas están realizando la acción, okay, en esta oración. Let's see the other example. It says, the dish that I ordered was delicious. As you can see, in this sentence, the relative pronoun is the object of the clause because this is not performing the action. Okay, for example, we said that when the relative pronoun is the object of the clause, it's optional. So we can omit this. Okay, so we can say, the dish I ordered was delicious. Ok, como pueden ver, podemos omitirlo. Ok, ¿cómo nos damos cuenta de si el relative pronoun es el sujeto o si es el objeto de la oración, del clause? Ok, ¿cómo nos damos cuenta? ¿Por qué? Porque el relative pronoun está seguido por un verbo cuando es el sujeto de la oración o de la clause. Ok, pero cuando es el objeto, no está seguido de un verbo, si se dan cuenta. Está seguido de un sujeto y luego recién viene un verbo. ¿Ok? So it says, you can usually tell when a relative pronoun is the object of the clause because it is followed by another subject and a verb. Como pueden ver, sujeto y verbo. En cambio, aquí en esta oración tenemos directamente el verbo. ¿Ok? Así nos damos cuenta si el relative pronouns es el sujeto o el objeto. ¿Ok? Entonces, no se olviden eso. Si está seguido de un sujeto y un verbo, significa que es object of the clause. Y es opcional. Podemos omitirlo. Pero si el relative pronouns está seguido de un verbo, significa que es el sujeto, subject of the clause. Entonces significa que no podemos omitirlo, que es required. ¿Ok? Es necesario y es esencial. Porque si lo omitimos, por ejemplo, en este caso, si borráramos el relative pronoun, nuestra oración estaría incompleta. ¿Ok? People hate chocolate are uncommon. Right? Como pueden ver, la oración no tiene sentido. En cambio, si borramos este, sí, la oración sigue teniendo sentido. The dish I ordered was delicious. Okay? Questions. I want you to ask questions about this. ¿Alguna pregunta? ¿Algo que quieran despejar? ¿Alguna duda que quieran despejar? Si no tienen preguntas, yo les puedo hacer preguntas. ¿No questions? Ok, yo les voy a preguntar. Percy, tell me please, what is a clause?
I don't know how to describe it, but it's a group. Sorry, it's a group of words that can make part or can make a sentence.
Ok. Un poquito incompleta su idea. Marisabel, what is a clause? Complete la idea de su compañero. What is a clause?
Is a group of word containing just a subject and verb.
Okay, it's a group of words that contains a subject and a verb, right?
Yes.
Okay, this is a clause. Maria Celeste, tell me please, what is a relative clause? What is a relative clause? Maria Celeste, are you here?
A relative clause we use when we give more information about something.
Okay, yes, but what is this? No, when do we use this? What is a relative clause?
I don't know exactly.
Geraldine, what is a relative clause?
Are words that we can use for make two sentences in just one sentence.
Okay, listen to my question. My question is not when do we use relative clause? My question is what is a relative clause? What is a relative clause, Rafael?
I understand that it's a type of word that replace a person or a thing.
No. Sebastian, what is a relative clause? Not relative pronoun, relative clause.
Maybe make a connection of two sentences in one.
No, no dije cuándo la utilizamos, dije qué es. Nicole, what is a relative clause?
It's a clause that starts with a relative pronoun.
Yes, it's a clause that starts with a relative pronoun, right? It's a clause that starts with a relative pronoun. This is a relative clause. Okay, it's a group of words that contains a subject and a verb, and this group of words begins with a relative pronoun. Okay? Renata, tell me, when do we use relative clauses?
To join two sentences and to give more information.
Very good. Yes, we use relative clauses when we want to join two sentences with a relative pronoun and when we want to give more information about something. Very good. Okay. Carlos, tell me please, what are the relative pronouns that we are going to use in this lesson? Carlos, can you hear me? Carlos? Something is wrong with your microphone. Try to fix it, okay? Karen, tell me please, what are the relative pronouns that we are going to use in this lesson?
Who and that?
Who and that. When do we use who and when do we use that?
Who's to refer a person or people, and that to refer a thing or people.
Okay, thank you. Tell me please, Carla, how many types of relative pronouns do we have? How many types of relative pronouns do we have?
Subject of the class and object of the class.
Very good. Subject of the clause and object of the clause. Thank you. Tell me please, Jordali, what does it mean, subject of the clause? Relative pronoun as the subject of the clause. What is this?
The subject of the clause is the person who does the action in
Okay.
a sentence or in a clause.
Okay, in this situation, is the relative pronoun who performs the action, right? Because we are talking about relative pronouns. Yes. What happens when the relative pronoun is the subject of the clause, Rosie? What happens when the relative pronoun is the subject of the clause?
In this case, the relative pronouns is required.
Okay, what does it mean? What does required mean?
That it have no sense if we don't use it.
Okay.
The-
Yes, the clause doesn't have sense when we don't use the relative pronoun. So we need the relative pronoun. It's essential, right? Okay, thank you. Rafael, tell me, what happened, or can you explain the relative pronoun as the object of the clause?
The door, no problem, teacher, because it's optional.
Again, please.
There is problem because it's optional.
It's not very clear. Brian, please tell me, what did you understand about the relative pronoun as the object of the clause?
The relative clauses the are clauses starting with the relative pronoun who,
No,
that, which, who.
you are not answering my question. Remember, we have two kinds of relative pronouns, right? We have the relative pronoun as the subject of the clause and the relative pronoun as the object of the clause. I want you to explain the relative pronoun as the object of the clause. What is this? How can we use this? Object of the clause. What about you, Percy? Can you explain the relative pronoun as the object of the clause?
Is the object that receives the action.
Again, please.
Is the object that receives the action of the subject.
And what happened? What happens if the relative pronoun is the object? Anybody? Can you explain? What happens when the relative pronoun is the object of the clause? What can we say?
We use that.
No.
Is the object of the class when it's followed by a subject and a verb?
Okay, we can recognize if the relative pronoun is the object of the clause, if this relative pronoun is followed by a subject and a verb. Okay, and what happened with this?
The use is optional because the meaning is the same.
Yes, the relative pronoun is optional. We can omit the relative pronoun because the meaning of the sentence with or without the relative pronoun is exactly the same. It doesn't change, right? Okay, do you have any questions about this? Any questions about the relative pronouns, relative clauses? Let's practice a little bit this in your book, okay? As you can see, Here we have who and that. These are relative pronouns, right? Okay, it says, which is used to refer back to people. Which is used to refer to people. What do you remember? ¿Cuál es utilizado para people?
Who.
Who, right? So we use who when we refer back to people. And what do we use for things?
That.
We use that for things, right? And for both people and things?
That too.
That too. We can use that to refer for people and things, right? So for both. Very good. We are going to complete the grammar panel with these examples that we have here, okay? Let's check the grammar panel. It says, relative clauses. We use relative clauses to give more information about a person or thing, okay? For example, he was the person who told me about barefoot running. There are the sandals that he ran in. He read about a runner who or that won a race barefoot. Okay, so it says, we use who and that to introduce relative clauses, to start the relative clauses, to begin the relative clauses, okay? So, we use who to refer to
People.
people, right? And we use that to refer to
Things.
People and things.
people and things,
Or things.
right? Or things.
Or things.
Very good. People or things. Let's go to the next part. It says, omitting who or that. We can only omit who or that if it is not the subject of the verb that follows. ¿Ok? Entonces, podemos omitir who y that si no es el sujeto de la oración. ¿Ok? Si no es el sujeto del verbo que sigue. ¿Ok? For example, here. The shoes that I want are like gloves for your feet. As you can see in this sentence, that is the object. How do we know that is the object? ¿Cómo podemos saber que es el objeto?
Because it's followed by a subject and a verb.
Very good, because it is followed by a subject and a verb. Very good. It says, I is the subject of the verb. So we can omit that. Okay? Here we have another sentence. I want shoes that fit me like a glove. In this sentence, fit is the subject. Okay? ¿Por qué? Sorry, that is the subject. Sorry. That is the subject. ¿Por qué? Porque está seguido de un verbo. ¿Ok? Lo mismo que vimos anteriormente. ¿Ok? Entonces podríamos omitir that. Podemos omitirlo, por eso está entre paréntesis, podemos ponerlo o no. Pero este that no podemos omitirlo, porque es el sujeto de nuestra oración, de nuestra clause. ¿Ok? ¿Alguna pregunta acerca de esto? Okay, let's go to page 149. We are going to practice a little bit this on the grammar reference, okay? Exercise 10.2. Fill in the blanks with who or that. Okay? Try to complete this, and then we are going to check. Okay, can we check? Number 1, it says, an object
That is very important to me.
yes, that is very important to me. A movie or TV show
That I have seen.
that I have seen recently. A friend
Who
who I have spoken to today. A person
who
who taught me how to do something. Number 5, a thing
that
that I have to do today. Number 6, a member of my family
Who?
who lives far away. Okay, very good. In activity B, it says, look at the relative clauses. When can you omit that and who? In which of these sentences we can omit that and who? What do you think? Number 1. In number 1, can we omit that?
No, teacher.
No. What about number 2? Can we omit that?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Why?
because it's followed by a
Subject and verb.
Very good. It's followed by a subject and a verb, right? Okay. What about sentence number 3? Can we omit that? Sorry, can we omit who?
Yes.
Yes, because it is followed by a subject and a verb, right? What about sentence number 4? Can we omit who?
No, teacher.
No. Sentence number 5. Can we omit that?
Yes.
Yes, teacher.
Yes, because it's followed by a subject and a verb. What about sentence number 6? Can we omit who?
No, teacher.
No, right? Because these are verbs that follow the relative pronoun, right? Okay, so what are we going to do? You are going to write sentences. It says, write sentences. Let's see, write a sentence about 1 to 6 in A using who and that. Okay, for example, my cell phone is the object that is most important for me. So I want you to complete all these sentences so that they are true for you. Okay, completen las oraciones y que sean reales para ustedes y luego la vamos a compartir. Okay? I'm going to give you some minutes. Sentence number 1. Please, Sebastián. How do you complete the number 1?
Teacher, my internet was failing and I didn't hear what you say.
But you didn't ask. When your internet came back, you didn't ask. How do you complete sentence number 1? Was my question.
Oh, what exercise?
This one that I am showing you on the screen.
An object that is very important to me.
Okay, how do you complete the sentence? You are lost, Sebastián, está perdido. Cuando a usted se le corte el internet y no sepa qué estamos haciendo, debe preguntar. ¿Ok?
Okay, teacher.
Go with Renata, please. How do you complete sentence 1?
My glasses are the object that are most important to me.
Okay. Yes. Let's go with Maria Celeste. Number 1, please.
My laptop is an object that is very important to me.
Okay, thank you. Let's go with sentence number 2, please. Percy.
Sentence number 2, right? Okay. Shark Tank is a TV show that I have seen recently.
Okay. So what is the other way in which you can say this sentence? What is the other way? Percy.
I don't know.
You can say the same sentence without the relative pronoun.
Oh, yes. Use that.
Shark Tank is a TV show. Shark Tank is a TV show I've seen recently, right? Okay, let's go with the next one. Brian, number 2, please. I guess something is wrong with your connection, Brian. Let's go with Carlos. Number 2, please. Carlos, can you hear me? Something is wrong with your audio. Rafael, please, number 2.
Okay, number 2. Okay, The Walking Dead is a series that I have seen recently.
Very good. Yes. And you can say also, The Walking Dead is a series I've seen recently, right? Okay, let's go with number 3. Karen, please.
Natalia is my friend I have spoken to today.
Okay, very good. You can say also, Natalia is a friend I have spoken to today. Carla, please, number 4.
My boss who taught me how to do my work.
Okay. My boss who taught me how to do
my
okay.
work or how to do something. It could be.
Yes, it's okay. Geraldine, number 4, please.
My dad who taught me to ride a bike.
How to ride a bike.
How to ride a bike.
Okay, very good. Let's go with Nicole, please, number 5.
My homework is the thing that I have to do today.
My homework is a thing that I have to do today. Okay. Yes, thank you. Jordali, please, number 6.
My uncle Luther who lives far away.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any questions about this?